Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing guests all around the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest, and it's a repeat company. I interviewed their chief of growth officer, operations officer. I don't know her exact title back in May at Consensus, and it was an amazing conversation. Today, I have her colleague. I have Evan Owens, who's the Vice President of Business Development at Cadena. Evan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Jamil, thanks for having me. Did you interview Annalise?
I did.
Okay, great. Yeah. She's our Chief Business Officer. She's my boss. She joined Cadena maybe 5 or 6 months before I did. But yeah, she's awesome. She was actually just over in at Davos at the World Economic Forum. I think she was on a couple panels. Sounds like it was a great time. So
yeah, I know some people who were there and they had an awesome, wonderful time. So
nice.
Maybe next year I'll go.
You ever been?
Never been.
Nah, me either. All right.
So, but very nice to meet you. And let's kick things off. I'll ask you first. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah. Good question. Probably not logical. I have a pretty wild career arc. Studied philosophy in college. My first job was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I wasn't like a broker in the pit. I was a clerk, a lowly clerk. But this is back when trading was still done live in the pit, just like you see in the movies. So that was a pretty fun experience. But then went on to be a sailboat captain, spent 4 years at sea down in the Caribbean. We had a 50-foot catamaran, charter boats, like you and your friends would come down, and we had a chef on board, and we'd cruise the islands and go scuba diving and do all that. Then went to LA, proposed to my wife, and then got into the tech world, started a company called Pogo Seat. It is a seat upgrade app. So if you go to a sport game and you're sitting in the nosebleeds, you can upgrade in real time, and there's dynamic pricing. And that company's still going today, 15 years later. I think we got about 50 teams in the NBA, MLB, and NFL and whatnot. But that was my first foray into the tech world. When I started that company, I didn't really know anything about being a founder or tech startups. And it was there that my co-founder, Andrew, was mining Bitcoin in our office in like 2012 or 13. And he's much smarter than I am. So he educated me on crypto and got me to learn a little bit. So after Pogo Seat, a few friends and I started a fund called Enigma Capital. This was right kind of before and during the ICO boom back in like 2016 to 19 or so. That was a multi-strat fund. So we did some liquid trading, and we had a small VC arm, which I ran. And yeah, did that for about 3 years. I still do a lot of investing in the crypto side, whether it's through some investment DAOs or being an angel investor or an LP in some crypto funds. And then I spent about 1.5 years at Flipside Crypto, which is a really awesome. They're technically a data analytics firm, but what they really do is help blockchains grow. I got to work with Dave Balter. He's an incredible founder there. And those guys are crushing. Awesome experience, a lot of gigabrains at Flipside. And that led me to Cadena. So I've been here about 5 months now. It was my first chance to work, on the network side for an actual layer one. Whereas Flipside, we were a vendor selling a product or service to L1s. It was pretty exciting for me to get the chance to go on the other side of the fence. So yeah, it's been an incredible 5 months. We got a great team. The future's bright. A lot of momentum on the product side. I'm sure we'll get into all this, but yeah, that's the short pitch on my journey there.
Awesome. I interviewed Annalise. I interviewed somebody at Flipside too. I don't remember the person.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're a good company.
Yeah, they're great.
Thank you for the opportunity to pay homage to one of my favorite sports personalities. Bob Uecker passed away recently.
Yeah.
But he would have loved your Pogo app.
Oh yeah, it's cool. I wish I would have met him and got the chance to pitch him.
Yeah, he must have been in the front row. I was seeing he was in Alaska with you. He might have been in the front row.
Yeah. So yeah, he probably didn't need Pogo seat. He already had front row or floor seats, but
Awesome. So Cadena, right? What's it all about, and what makes what was your vision, and what makes it positioned well for the future?
Yeah, great question. I mean, first of all, I think we launched mainnet in January 2020, so it's a older chain, and the pro of that is that it's battle tested, right? We've been in the wild for 5 years or so. We have incredible founders, Stuart and Will. They were originally met, I think, at JP Morgan, maybe even before that, but they helped to build one of JP Morgan's first forays into the crypto space. I think it was called Onyx, as a private permission chain. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if JP Morgan shut that project down, but Stuart and Will spun out and started Cadena. And I think their original vision was to, have the best of both worlds, right? Cadena's proof of work like Bitcoin, but we have this chain web architecture that makes it scalable, like Ethereum, for example. So it's a very unique chain in that regard. I would say we have the ingredients to really have an incredible next, year or two. We have this amazing team, especially the core engineering and tech is awesome. We have a very robust grants program. That's what my team works on, of course, is encouraging founders to come build on Cadena. And then, by hiring Annalise and then myself, and we're still growing our team, we're really putting a lot of effort into, the BD side of the business, the marketing, getting the word out, right? Because I think there are like 200 L1s or maybe more than that right now live. And you have lots more coming on board, like Monad, Barachain, Abstract, etc. So there's definitely lots of competition just to get attention and mind share in crypto. So one thing we're working on at Cadena is crafting our narrative, telling a better story. I think traditionally maybe we led with the tech at Cadena, like, hey, we're proof of work, plus we have chain web, we have our own smart contract language, which are all awesome. But sometimes the general public doesn't really care about that. So we're really working on crafting a new story. So on the BD side, we have this, awesome team, lots of momentum, huge deals coming down the pipeline. I can probably drop some alpha in this podcast at some point. But then on the product side, we have, a new bridge coming online. We just announced we're going to be EVM compatible, probably early, like Q1 and 26. Hopefully we'll have a DevNet launch soon. We just did a big AMA with Stuart and Will for the community and announced that. So that will help plug us into the, crypto community and make it easier for founders to, bring their apps to Cadena. So anyway, I think the combo of the team, BD deals coming to the pipeline, prog developments, and crafting this new story are the ingredients that could lead to breakout success for Cadena in the next year or two.
Sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are doing a lot, and I see Annalise out there talking about her book.
Yeah. It's right here. Oh no, I took it home already. I forgot. It was behind me here, but
From hoodies to suits.
yep.
And the interesting thing is, in my AIG days, I used to wear a suit,
Yep.
and now I got the hoodie, so I went reverse.
Yeah, there we go. You went the verse. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Wait,
So
where were you earlier, Jamil?
my early in career, I was at AIG. I worked at
Okay.
AIG for 12 years. So
Gotcha.
the interesting thing about AIG was when I was there, I never heard the word Bitcoin. But as soon as they threw me out the door in 2017, then I heard about Bitcoin. They did a pretty good job of keeping it under wraps.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So your journey, I want to find out how you met. You said you were a sailboat captain, right? So I want to find out how your journey in crypto and Cadena was similar to your journeys in the Atlantic.
Yeah, great question. Let's see here. Well, one thing that stands out is before we got to the Caribbean and started running the charter business, we had to get the boat from France to the Caribbean, so we had to sail across the Atlantic. So we left the Canary Islands and went to St. Lucia, and so we were at sea for 21 days, crossing the Atlantic. As you can imagine, there's an incredible amount of planning and preparation that goes into that journey, right? Like stocking the food, making sure you have extra engine parts, making sure the watch is set. So, Evan comes on from midnight to 4 to sail while people get to sleep, all those things. Um, Similar to like the BD team at Cadena, we're laying out our roadmap for the next year or two, right? What big deals do we want to get done, with new wallet providers or stable coins or custodians or DEXs? Um, what are our OKR? What's our North Star? And then what are our OKRs to help get there in terms of, developer acquisition, onboarding new wallets, growing TVL, all these things to make the Cadena ecosystem robust. So we've laid out, we've done a lot of planning and preparation at Cadena for the future, just like we did sailing. Now, what also happens is when you sail across the Atlantic, things go wrong, right? The weather changes, a sail breaks, someone falls overboard, the food goes bad. So you have to be you know, able to adapt and adjust on the fly. Same at Cadena, right? We might have, you know, um, new additions to our team that we got to plug in and teach about Cadena. We might have deals that blow up and go south, and we got to get another deal done. So, I think Mike Tyson says, right, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And for sure, that's going to happen. You just don't know what it is. But being able to be resilient and persevere and get to the challenges will take you a long way. So we got across the ocean, we made it, and so I'm hoping with Cadena we can also get across the ocean.
Yeah, sounds good. So I want to find out, the best way for Cadena, like getting across the ocean. What's the best way for the Cadena blockchain to help power global finance?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think again, if you go back to the origins of Cadena, with our founders coming out of JP Morgan and being proof of work, i.e., being incredibly secure, that appeals to traditional finance and Wall Street, right? My team at Cadena is mostly focused on the crypto world and getting those deals done. And Elise and her team, which we call the labs team inside Cadena, is focused on TradFi on Wall Street. So that's why she's at Davos, and they have conversations with lots of the big banks. And so we would love to, have one of the big boys, launch an RWA fund on Cadena or do, tokenize some assets, right? And the chain is built to, scale for that and again, be incredibly secure. So I think there are a lot of arrows in our quiver on that side. And then again, like, on our side of the business, as we get more deals done with crypto companies, let's just say like DeFi protocols, right? It could be a lending protocol, for example. Then when they come to Cadena and we're like, hey, we have a partnership with big bank XYZ. By the way, let's make a warm intro, connect you guys. They might be interested in providing liquidity for your lending protocol and starting to get into the DeFi world, right? So we can, help broker that relationship and hopefully be like, a symbiotic ecosystem, right?
Got it. So I was going to ask about Wall Street, but I'm going to shift it to focus on your side of the business, which is the crypto side of the business, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's still a lot of disconnect, still a lot of areas, companies that are protocols that don't, interconnect or that don't, that everybody sees themselves as a silo.
Mm.
How do you improve the silos so that you have a world where different chains are working together collaboratively? What are the obstacles in that? How do you get there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one answer is there are some really awesome, companies in crypto that are solving that interoperability problem. It could be, the Axelars of the world, the Layer Zeros, the wormholes, right? You get a partnership done with those guys, integration, and then you're pretty well connected to 100 other chains, right? The challenge, at least for us, is because of the moment we're not EVM compatible, the technical lift to get those integrations done is pretty large. So all those names I just mentioned, we are chatting with. The timing of when those deals will get done is still, TBD. But that's the answer, I think, to helping break down the silos and solving the interoperability problem, which you're right to call out. It is a big issue. Hence why those companies, I think, have raised lots of money and are growing and doing really well.
The other issue, I think, is you just said it was EVM compatible. there seems to be a lot of problems in the Ethereum ecosystem where Ethereum stalled, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are other chains that are growing, like yours are growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So EVM compatible is not the necessary thing that it used to be, right? So what's going to replace it? Or how do you in a world where
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum is not compatible, how do you
Mm-hmm.
what is?
Yeah, we thought about that. Obviously, Solana pops to mind, and being Solana compatible, right? SVM, right? Which may well, you know, flip Ethereum at some point. I don't think it's too far away right now. Or it could be some of the new ones, right? The movement ecosystem. You got, Sui and Aptos and movement itself. So I think it's a little bit of an unknown there, but as of today, being EVM compatible is still, the top dog and the first choice. But you're right to call out that if we talk again, in January 26th, that might not be the case, right? And maybe blockchains are doing other XYZ compatibility. But yeah, we definitely thought about it a little bit and chatted internally because obviously this decision was made a while back to do this, become EVM compatible. And I think it will be a great one, especially I just know from the BD side, all these folks we talk to where the technical lift is a hurdle, becoming EVM compatible will make my team's job much easier, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
um, so I want to talk a little bit about TradFi, right?
Hmm.
You guys are both focused on developing strategic partnerships across TradFi and DeFi and scaling businesses across industries, whether it be Wall Street or crypto, right?
Yep.
What's the role, the importance of developing those strategic partnerships?
Well, I think if you zoom out, um, the new administration is very great for the crypto industry, right? To use a sailing term, the wind is at our back now, right? We're sailing downwind. I think everyone feels that we're breathing life into the industry. It sounds like we're going to get some sensible regulation in place that everyone has been asking for years. So we know, what's the security, what's not, what are the tax implications of, making business decisions in crypto. All that will be amazing and fertile grounds to grow the industry. But I think the main thing is to allow, there's a reason that TradFi and Wall Street has not necessarily flooded into crypto over the last 10 years, right? Because they're waiting for sensible regulation and tax clarification, all those things. I think you can look at stable coins as being a massive early adoption funnel for TradFi to get money, in the get fiat into the crypto sphere, right? And then you can start playing around and do stuff. So it's funny, like when we started that fund, I told you about Enigma Capital back in 2017. Novogratz, I'm sure he was pounding the drum, and the line was like, "The herd is coming, the institutions are coming," right? So we've been saying that for a long, long time, and I'm always careful to say this time it's different, but it feels like it is different now, and that the big boys are coming in size and going to start deploying. Um, then the question becomes where and what, right? And so I already mentioned stable coins. I think RWA is going to be a huge, vertical in crypto, right? I feel like tokenizing assets has a lot of benefits, for the big banks and consumers. And so that's where Cadena would love to play, right? And we're set up for that. And those are the deals that Annalise and her team are working on.
So I want to talk about Enigma, not specifically Enigma, but I want to talk about the ICO boom of the 2017 and 18 because I was there as an advisor too.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you help startups, right? The space has shifted dramatically since the ICO days of startups into what the startups are today. You know, how do you? What lessons did you learn from the ICO days, and how do you apply them to the startups that you help today?
Yeah. Oh boy. I mean, first of all, the initial coin offering, there were some beautiful things about it, in terms of um, access to tokens and companies, and lots of people made lots of money. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a democratic process, because there were still like insiders and free sales and the initial pump, and then retail would get in and there'd be the dump. Um, Keep in mind too that I had just ran Pogo Seat for 7 years, and we raised 5.5 million in seed funding. So I was in the Web 2 world, right? And raising money from VCs and angels, they're asking about, what problem are we solving? What are we building in the world? And then I was really good at telling the Pogo Seat story. And so then I'm meeting these founders in the ICO world, and like, to be honest, not much was being built, right? A lot of it was scams and vaporware. Obviously, there were great projects that came out that boom, Maker, or even Ethereum a little earlier. There were some awesome projects, but I would say if I had to put a number on it, it's like 90 to 95% of ICOs were not great companies solving problems in the world or adding any value, right? Um, so I guess one lesson I learned was just trying to keep the Web 2 hat on a little bit, of like always asking, are you building something people want? Are you solving a problem? What's the value? What's the product here? What traction do you have? And it's hard because if I remember back to the ICO boom, and we had a fund, so we're deploying capital. There's lots of excitement because people are making money really fast, right? And so sometimes you get undisciplined, and make some bad decisions, or you make a lot of money, but you don't really feel great about it because it's not like the company you invested in is going to change the world. So, I mean, look, we're seeing that today in a sense with the meme coin craze, right? There's like, I don't even know, millions of coins launched a day. Pretty much every one of them, goes to zero. Again, a small subset of people are getting rich. I think the majority of retail probably gets rugged. Um, Obviously, Trump launched his own meme coin. People made a lot of money. People lost money. Is that great for crypto in the grand scheme of things? I don't know about that.
Yeah. I
And
think what would be
yes,
great.
yes, just so you know, I missed out on Trump. I was looking at it Friday night at the crypto ball, and it was like, at $1 billion market cap. And I was like, oh, well, I obviously missed the boat already. And then I woke up Saturday morning and it was at a $50 billion market cap. So I guess a good lesson there. You might think you're late sometimes, but you're not always too late.
I mean, there were other coins that came out in the past few years, like Pepe and Pork and different things. There's always going to be an opportunity.
Yeah,
It seems like, so if you missed one, doesn't mean you're going to miss the next one.
yeah, yeah. I think totally. And what I do like about even meme coins or ICOs is the fact that in theory everyone gets a chance to invest, right? Early. Whereas, the private markets don't work like that. Like, unless you get invited to the Series A or seed round of the Stripes or Airbnbs or Ubers of the world, you're not going to be able to invest until they go public, right? So I think crypto does break down those walls, which is odd. That's a great piece of it, right?
It breaks down the VC walls, right? So
Yeah,
what's the future of the VC market when it comes to crypto and then non-crypto?
yeah. By no means am I an expert in the space, so take all this with a grain of salt. And I'm also an investor in a few crypto VC funds, which are awesome. I love them. Um, I don't know a lot about it, but I was reading about I think Kobe, one of the KOLs or influencers. Obviously, he's an OG, but he started that platform Echo. Have you heard of that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So crypto startups again can just raise from a group of individuals online, and I think it's been pretty successful so far. I've seen some startups raise millions of bucks in like 8 minutes, right? Again, this is just like reading it, from the periphery, but there's probably just more competition for crypto VCs because there's other avenues for founders to raise, from a select group of individuals very fast and not go through the process of the pitch deck and the pitches and all of that with VCs. Now, you probably need some time to see how it plays out because there are crypto VCs who I know it's kind of like a meme, but add value, right? They can make, warm introductions to companies you want to get business done with. They can help with recruiting. They've been around and seen cycles. They can talk about token economics, right? So I'm certainly still a believer in the good crypto VCs. You want them in your corner, right? Especially in your foxhole when the next bear market comes, right? So, but yeah, I think it's good for founders. They have more options now, and there's probably just a little more competition amongst crypto VCs for the hot deals.
Well, let's hope the bear market doesn't come for a long time because we've had enough of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I hear you there.
So there is a little bit of argument right now going on in the industry, right? And when is President Trump announced that there's going to be a strategic crypto reserve, and the Bitcoin maxis are like, it should be a strategic Bitcoin only reserve. And I'm looking at it from a perspective like, no, I think it's a benefit to have lots of things. What is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, it probably makes sense to have an index, and obviously it's going to be weighted heavily toward Bitcoin, but especially with I don't know if it's official yet, but I've been reading that crypto companies based in the U.S. there will be no capital gains taxes. Is that right? Yeah,
Yep.
so that's great. That's great for Cadena, right? We're a U.S. company. So we're very excited to hear that. We'd love Cadena to be included in there. Maybe it's like, look, Trump's trying to bring business and investment back to America. So it could be like, hey, the index, the strategic reserve is, the top 20 crypto companies in America, for example, right? Which would be a strong signal, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't die on a hill saying it has to be just all Bitcoin. I think an index is probably a reasonable decision.
Yeah, so do I. I know the dangers of not having everybody at the table. So
yeah, exactly. But then you get the collective horsepower of a few different communities as opposed to just one, right?
yeah. So what's the future look like for Cadena?
Oh, great question. We want to continue to grow. We have a very robust product roadmap. Again, we mentioned the bridge and event compatibility. We have this new feature called Spire Key, which is trying to kind of abstract away some of the difficulties when you launch a wallet. So it uses biometrics like a face scan, right? And but also keeps your seed phrase safe. And on the BD side, we have I can't announce it yet, but a really cool sports deal with a major global company to build on chain and do some fan token stuff and NFT stuff, plus a sponsorship. And then getting deals done with major players in terms of the interoperability vertical you mentioned, new wallets, new custodians, new dexes, all marquee names you've heard of. So as you stack those up and continue to build momentum, it just, makes the path easier and easier, right? And gets the flywheel spinning. So I think when you combine the BD team, the deals, the product roadmap, the underlying tech, being proof of work, 5 years in the space, Annalise and her team working on the TradFi Wall Street deals. If we, that basket right there, if we hit home runs on all of those, the future is very bright for Cadena.
Sounds like it. Sounds really good. And then you said early on, I think if I understood you correctly, you help like people new to the industry, people start companies, right? It's like a labs, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, we don't have an internal accelerator incubator, but for example, LendOS is a new lending protocol building on Cadena. Their two founders actually, I believe, applied through our grants program, right? So you can go online, you can apply for a grant. We've done a good job about speeding that process up, and like instead of like weeks, like days, and like they're rocking and rolling, right? But so actually, Jessica Rossman on my team worked with those founders, got the deal done. We have a new head of DevRel named Charlie, who's amazing, and so we want to make it as friendly as possible for new developers, right? So we just launched a new a website update for like our tooling and documentation for developers. They can easily figure out, hey, here's the tech stack, here's the tools we use, here's the instructions on how to do it, right? Like removing as much friction as possible so it's developer friendly, right? We've made a lot of strides there. We still have a ways to go. Also creating a community for all the founders building on Cadena to share best practices, make sure they know the processes, who to communicate with. Lana is is our head of account management. So when the BDT team gets deals done, Lana takes over the handoff process, does the kickoff meeting, welcomes, in this case, let's just say LendOS to the ecosystem. So getting that dialed, and I think other L1s are also doing a great job, and we're trying to learn from others, right? Like, but you have to do that to eat. That's like table stakes to compete to attract developers, right? Because when we talk to people, they're like, "Hey, I can go build on, Sui, Aptos, Solana, etc. Why Cadena?" We have to make sure our sales pitch is airtight, and really compelling, right? Um, so we're getting there. We still have a ways to go, and that's again part of my job is to um, make that better.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you very much for speaking with me today. I enjoyed our conversation. I have one last question. How can
Sure.
people find out more information about you, about Cadena? How can they start to use your platform? How can they do that?
Yeah, totally. Well, definitely Twitter. You got the Cadena main site. I'm Captain Owens on Twitter. Please follow me. Like I said, our website, we just updated the developer documentation and tooling site. So you can go there. You can also apply for a grant right on our site. On Telegram, I'm also Captain Owens. You can hit me up anytime and say, hey, I want to build this project on Cadena. We'll set up a meeting and get the ball rolling. So
Very cool. Thank you very much for your time today.
yeah, Jamil, it's been a pleasure.